There are some roads in Australia that people avoid even in daylight because they believe those roads remember everything that happened there. This is the story of a small town in Victoria, Australia, where a desperate father entered a forbidden forest road during a stormy night to save his daughter, but what he discovered there changed his life forever. Ravenwood Hollow was a quiet and isolated town surrounded by thick forests and endless mountains. Most people in the town lived simple lives and everyone knew each other. But there was one place that nobody wanted to talk about. A dark forest path known as Black Mist Valley Road. Locals believed that anyone who entered that road after midnight never returned the same way. Some people said they heard voices calling their names from inside the forest. Some claimed they saw shadows moving between the trees, but nobody had a clear answer about what truly lived there. On a cold, rainy evening, Nathan Collins was sitting outside his small house looking at his daughter Sophie, who was lying on the bed. Sophie was only 9 years old and she had been suffering from a strange illness for many days. Her condition was getting worse every hour. Doctors in the nearby city had told Nathan that Sophie needed special treatment immediately. But the treatment was extremely expensive. Nathan had already spent all his savings on hospital bills. He had even borrowed money from friends and neighbors. But now he had nothing left. Nathan looked at his daughter with tears in his eyes. He felt helpless because he was a father who wanted to save his child but had no way to do it. That same evening, Nathan went to the old community cafe where people of Ravenwood Hollow usually gathered. Inside the cafe, his best friend Lucas Bennett was sitting silently with a worried face. The owner of the cafe noticed their sadness. His name was Oliver Hayes. Usually the cafe was full of laughter and conversations, but that night nobody was talking. Nobody was even drinking their usual coffee. Oliver looked at both men and asked, "What happened, Nathan? Why does everyone look so worried today?" Nathan lowered his head and replied, "It is Sophie. Her condition is getting worse. The doctors said we need a huge amount of money for her treatment. I tried everything but I have failed." Lucas placed his hand on Nathan's shoulder and said, "You did everything you could." But Nathan shook his head. A father cannot stop trying when his child is fighting for life. At that moment, the town school principal Caleb Anderson entered the cafe. Caleb had been working in Ravenwood Hollow for many years. Everyone respected him because he always helped people whenever they needed him. He noticed the silence inside the cafe and immediately understood something was wrong. What happened here? Why does everyone look so worried? Oliver explained everything about Sophie. Caleb became silent for a moment. Then he slowly said, "Nathan, I might have a way to help you." Everyone looked at him with surprise. Caleb continued, "My grandfather left me something before he passed away. An old property near the northern forest. I never wanted to sell it because it was a family memory. But if selling that land can save Sophie, then I will do it." Nathan was shocked. "No, Caleb. That land belongs to your family. You cannot sacrifice your history for us." Caleb smiled and replied, "A piece of land has no value if it cannot help someone in need. A human life is always more important." Lucas looked at Caleb with respect. He had never seen anyone make such a big sacrifice. The next morning before sunrise, Caleb, Nathan, and Lucas started their journey toward the old property to meet a bear. The weather was terrible. Heavy rain covered the roads. Strong winds moved through the trees. The old bus they were traveling in was almost empty. Outside the window, everything looked dark and lifeless. After several hours of travel, they finally reached the nearest stop to Ravenwood Hollow Forest. But something felt strange. The entire area was silent. No vehicles, no people, no shops were open. Only a single old street lamp was flickering in the rain. Nathan looked around and said, "I have never seen this place so empty before." Lucas looked toward the dark forest ahead. "Maybe people avoid coming here during storms." Caleb looked at the forest road and suddenly became serious, because he remembered something his grandfather once told him. Never enter the northern forest after sunset. No matter who calls you, no matter what you see, never follow the voices. Before Caleb could say anything more, a weak old man suddenly appeared on the empty road holding an old lantern. Caleb stopped walking. His face turned pale, because he recognized that man. It was his grandfather Henry Whitmore, the same grandfather who had died many years ago. Caleb whispered in fear, "Grandfather, how are you here?" The old man looked at him and smiled. "Caleb, you finally came back, but you should not have chosen this road tonight." Caleb stood frozen in the middle of the road. Rainwater was dripping from his face, but he did not even notice it. His eyes were fixed on the old man standing in front of him. The man looked exactly like his grandfather Henry Whitmore. The same old coat, the same walking stick, the same calm expression. But Caleb knew one thing very clearly. His grandfather had been dead for almost 12 years. "Grandfather, how is this possible?" Caleb finally managed to speak. The old man looked at him quietly and replied, "Some things in this world are not meant to be understood easily, but tonight you need to listen to me." Nathan and Lucas looked at each other with confusion. They did not know who this old man was or why Caleb looked so terrified. Caleb slowly introduced him. "This is my grandfather Henry, but he passed away many years ago." Lucas felt a chill run through his body. He looked at Henry carefully. The old man was standing under the heavy rain, but his clothes were completely dry. Nathan noticed it too. Something was not right. Henry looked toward Nathan and asked, "Why have you come to the northern forest?" Caleb answered, "We came here because my friend needs money for his daughter treatment. I am going to sell my family property." Henry became serious after hearing this. "Sell the property?" "Caleb, that land was protected by your ancestors for generations. Why are you giving it away?" Caleb looked at him and replied, "Because a child's life is more important than any property." Henry stared at Caleb for a long moment. Then a small smile appeared on his face. "I always knew you had a kind heart, but there is something you do not know about this place." Nathan stepped forward and asked, "Sir, can you help us reach the property? My daughter is very sick. We do not have much time." Henry looked toward the dark forest road. Then he slowly shook his head. The main road to Ravenwood Hollow is blocked. A huge tree fell during the storm. Nobody can pass through there tonight. Nathan became worried. "Then how will we reach the town?" Henry pointed toward a narrow path going deep into the forest. "There is another way, the Black Mist Valley Trail. It will take you directly to the other side." Lucas immediately reacted. "Black Mist Valley. I have heard stories about that place. People say nobody walks through that forest at night." Henry looked at him seriously. "Those stories are true. That valley is not a normal place. Many years ago people entered that forest and disappeared. Some were never found. Some returned, but they were never the same again." Nathan looked toward the dark path. Then he looked at Caleb. "We do not have another option. If we waste the night here, Sophie might not survive." Caleb understood Nathan's pain. He looked at Henry and asked, "Grandfather, is there any way we can safely cross?" Henry remained silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "There is only one rule. Whatever happens inside that forest, do not stop, do not answer any voice, and never turn around. Even if someone you love calls your name." Nathan felt a sudden fear. "Why? What happens if we look back?" Henry looked toward the forest. "Because the forest knows your memories. It can create voices of the people you miss. It can show faces you want to see, but they are not real. They are only trying to make you stay there forever." A strong wind suddenly passed through the trees. The old lantern in Henry's hand started flickering. Caleb looked at his grandfather with fear. "Grandfather, have you been inside that forest?" Henry looked away. "Long ago. I made the same mistake that others made. I believed what I saw, and because of that mistake, I have been waiting here for someone with a pure heart to arrive." Nobody understood what he meant. Before Caleb could ask another question, Henry stepped back into the darkness. "Wait, grandfather," Caleb shouted, but Henry only said one last thing. "Remember, Caleb, the greatest danger in that forest is not the spirits. It is your own heart." Then the old man slowly disappeared into the heavy rain, leaving the three men standing alone on the empty road. For a few moments nobody spoke. The only sound was the rain falling around them. Nathan looked at Caleb. Who was that man really? Caleb looked toward the forest. "I do not know anymore. But I know one thing. We have to keep moving. For Sophie." The three men picked up their bags and entered the Black Mist Valley Trail. At first the path looked normal. The trees were wet from the rain. The ground was muddy. The wind was cold. But after walking deeper into the forest, something strange started happening. The rain suddenly stopped. The wind disappeared, and complete silence covered the forest. No birds, no insects, nothing. It felt like the entire forest was holding its breath. Lucas whispered, "Caleb, I think something is watching us." Caleb looked around but saw nothing. Then suddenly, from somewhere deep inside the forest, a little girl voice echoed, "Daddy, please help me." Nathan stopped walking. His face became pale, because he knew that voice. It was Sophie. Nathan suddenly stopped walking. His heart started beating faster. That voice, that exact voice, it was impossible to mistake. It sounded exactly like his daughter Sophie. "Daddy, please help me." The voice came again from deeper inside the forest. Nathan immediately moved toward the sound, but Caleb grabbed his arm and stopped him. "Nathan, wait. Remember what my grandfather said. Do not follow any voice." Nathan looked at Caleb with fear and anger. "But that is my daughter. She needs me." Caleb tightened his grip. "Your daughter is hundreds of kilometers away at home. She cannot be here." Nathan stood silently. His eyes filled with tears, because a part of him wanted to believe it was Sophie. A father's heart always runs toward his child, even when his mind knows something is wrong. Lucas looked around nervously. Guys, I do not like this place. We should keep moving. The three men continued walking through the dark forest, but the voice did not stop. Daddy, I am scared. Please come back. Nathan covered his ears. He tried not to listen, but every word felt real. Every cry sounded like Sophie was truly suffering. The path became narrower. The trees around them grew taller. Their branches twisted together above their heads like they were forming a wall. The darkness became so thick that even their flashlights started becoming weaker. Caleb looked at the strange forest around them. This place is not normal. It feels like we are walking in circles. Lucas checked the path behind them. I think we already passed this same tree before. Caleb looked back. On one of the trees there was a strange mark carved into the bark, a symbol that looked like an old warning sign. He remembered seeing the same symbol in his grandfather's old diary. Suddenly a cold wind passed between them. The flashlight in Lucas' hand turned off. Lucas hit it several times, but it did not turn on. Then from the darkness ahead, a woman appeared. She was standing beside an old tree. She was wearing a long white dress. Her hair covered her face, and in her hand she was holding a small lantern. The woman slowly lifted her hand, calling them closer. Nathan looked carefully. His breathing stopped, because the woman looked exactly like his wife who had passed away 5 years ago. Emily, Nathan whispered, "Number, this cannot be real." The woman slowly moved closer. "Nathan, you left me alone. Why did you stop looking for me?" Nathan's eyes filled with tears. He wanted to run toward her. He wanted to hear her voice again. But Caleb stepped in front of him. "Nathan, do not listen. It is not her." The woman suddenly changed her expression. Her voice became darker. "You do not love your family. You are letting them disappear." Nathan closed his eyes. He remembered Henry's warning. "Do not believe what you see. Do not believe what you hear." The woman started screaming. "Nathan, look at me. I am your wife. You cannot leave me again." But Nathan did not move. Caleb grabbed Lucas' hand. "Do not stop. Keep walking." The moment they turned away, the woman's voice changed into a terrifying scream. The sound echoed through the entire forest. Then suddenly many voices started coming from every direction. "Help me. Save me. Come here. Stay with us." The three men kept walking faster, but the forest seemed to change around them. The path behind them disappeared. New paths appeared in front of them. Trees moved like they were alive. Lucas was breathing heavily. "Caleb, are we trapped?" Caleb did not answer, because he also did not know. Then suddenly Nathan stopped. Everyone looked at him. Nathan was staring at something beside the path. On the ground there was a small pink bracelet, a bracelet that belonged to Sophie. Nathan slowly picked it up. His hand started shaking. "This is my daughter's bracelet. She wears this every day. How can this be here?" Caleb looked at the bracelet carefully. Something was wrong. The bracelet was completely dry, even though the entire forest floor was covered with rainwater. Caleb whispered, "This place is trying to break us. It knows our memories. It knows what we love." Suddenly a loud sound came from behind them, like something huge was walking between the trees. Heavy footsteps, slowly getting closer. The ground started shaking slightly. Lucas looked terrified. "What is that?" Between the trees, a huge dark shadow appeared. It was taller than a human. Its body was covered in black smoke, and two glowing eyes were watching them. Nathan stepped back. The shadow moved closer. Then a deep voice echoed through the forest. "You came here because you wanted something. Now you must give something in return." Caleb remembered his grandfather's words. "The greatest danger is not the spirits. It is your own heart." The shadow stretched its hand toward them, and suddenly all three men realized. The Black Mist Valley was not trying to scare them away. It was testing them. The dark figure stood in front of them without moving. The entire forest had become silent again. Nathan, Lucas, and Caleb could only hear their own breathing. The shadow slowly raised its hand, and a cold voice came from the darkness. "One of you wants something badly. One of you is willing to sacrifice anything. But every sacrifice has a price." Nathan looked at Caleb with fear. "What does it want from us?" Caleb did not answer, because deep inside he knew. This forest was not asking for money. It was asking for something much more dangerous. The shadow moved closer. The trees around them started shaking even though there was no wind. Suddenly the forest changed. The dark trees disappeared, and all three men found themselves standing in a completely different place. Nathan looked around in confusion. He was standing outside his old house. The same house where he lived with his wife Emily and daughter Sophie years ago. The place looked exactly the same. The old wooden door, the small garden, the broken chair near the window. Nathan could not believe his eyes. Emily, his wife, was standing near the door, smiling at him. Nathan froze. Emily slowly walked toward him. "Nathan, you finally came back. I have been waiting for you." Tears filled Nathan's eyes. He wanted to run toward her, but something stopped him, because he remembered. Emily was gone. She was not alive anymore. The woman smiled. Why are you standing there? Do you not want to see me again? Nathan closed his eyes. You are not real. The smile on Emily's face disappeared. Her expression became cold. After everything we had, you still do not trust me. The voice suddenly became deeper. You came here to save your daughter, but you cannot even save your own family. Nathan covered his ears. Stop. You are not real. The house started shaking. The walls became darker. The windows cracked. And the fake Emily slowly changed into a terrifying shadow. You will lose everyone you love. Just like before. Suddenly the illusion disappeared. Nathan found himself back inside the forest. He fell to the ground breathing heavily. Caleb and Lucas quickly helped him stand. Nathan looked shocked. It showed me Emily. It knew everything about my life. Caleb looked serious. It is using your memories against you. We have to keep moving. Meanwhile, Lucas was standing quietly. He was looking at something between the trees. Caleb noticed him. Lucas, what are you looking at? Lucas slowly pointed ahead. There was a small wooden cabin hidden deep inside the forest. A warm light was coming from inside. That was strange, because there was no sign of anyone living there. Caleb remembered something. His grandfather had once mentioned an old cabin near Black Mist Valley, a place where people went missing years ago. Nathan looked at the cabin. Maybe someone is inside. Maybe they can help us find the way out. Caleb stopped him. Wait, we do not know what that place is. But before they could decide, the cabin door slowly opened by itself. A voice came from inside. Caleb, come inside. You have been away for too long. Caleb's face changed, because that voice belonged to his grandfather Henry. Grandfather. Caleb slowly walked forward. Nathan grabbed his shoulder. Remember what he said. Do not follow voices. Caleb stopped, but the voice came again. Caleb, I am waiting for you. You need to know the truth. The three men looked at each other. They knew something important was hidden inside that cabin. Slowly they walked closer. The door remained open. Inside the cabin everything looked old. Dust covered the furniture. Old books were lying everywhere. On the wall there were photographs of people who lived in Ravenwood Hollow many years ago. Caleb looked around. This place belongs to my family. Lucas noticed a large old diary on the table. Caleb, look at this. Caleb picked up the diary. The cover had his grandfather's name written on it. Henry Whitmore. He opened the first page, and his hands started shaking. Because the diary was not about family history. It was about Black Mist Valley. The first line said, I discovered the truth about this forest many years ago. The spirits here are not trapped because they are evil. They are trapped because of a promise that was never completed. Caleb turned the page quickly. The next sentence shocked him. The valley chooses people who have pure intentions. But before giving them what they seek, it tests their hearts. Nathan looked confused. What does that mean? Caleb continued reading. The forest does not take innocent people. It takes people who fail the test. Suddenly the cabin door slammed shut behind them. The lantern inside the room went out. And from outside the cabin, hundreds of whispers started surrounding them. You entered the valley. Now prove your worth. Lucas stepped back. We need to leave. But when Caleb opened the door, there was no forest outside. Only complete darkness. And from that darkness, a familiar voice called his name. Caleb. It was his grandfather Henry. But this time, the voice was coming from inside the darkness. Caleb stood near the cabin door. His hand was still holding the old diary. The voice calling his name from the darkness sounded exactly like Henry Whitmore. Caleb, come outside. I need to tell you the truth. For a moment Caleb wanted to believe it. After all, he had just seen his grandfather on the road. Maybe this was another chance to speak with him. Maybe Henry was trying to help them. But then he remembered the warning. Do not believe any voice inside the forest. Caleb slowly stepped back. Number, you are not my grandfather. The moment he said those words, the entire cabin started shaking. The old wooden walls made strange cracking sounds. The books on the shelves fell to the ground. And the whispers outside became louder. Lucas looked terrified. Caleb, what is happening? Caleb held the diary tightly. I think this forest is testing us again. Nathan looked around nervously. How many tests are left? Caleb looked at the diary pages. I do not know, but my grandfather wrote something here. He said the forest only releases people who prove their true intentions. Suddenly the lantern inside the cabin turned on by itself. A new page appeared in the old diary. Even though nobody touched it, Caleb slowly opened it. The words written on the page were fresh, almost like someone had written them moments ago. The first test was desire. The second test is fear. The forest will show you the thing you fear the most. And if you surrender to that fear, you will become part of the valley forever. Nathan looked at the dark corners of the cabin. So it is not trying to kill us. It is trying to break us. Caleb nodded. Exactly. It wants us to give up. Suddenly the room became colder. A thin layer of fog started entering through the floor. The three men watched as the fog moved around their feet. Then the cabin walls disappeared, and each of them was standing alone in a different place. Nathan found himself inside a hospital room. The same hospital where Sophie was receiving treatment. He heard doctors talking outside. The door opened. A doctor walked in with a serious expression. "Mr. Collins, I am sorry. We could not save your daughter." Nathan felt his heart stop. "Number. That cannot be true." The doctor walked away, and Nathan saw Sophie lying on the hospital bed, not moving. Nathan rushed toward her, but suddenly Sophie opened her eyes. "Daddy, why did you leave me?" Nathan froze. "I did not leave you. I came to save you." Sophie looked at him suddenly. "But you chose a dangerous road instead of staying with me." Tears rolled down Nathan's face. "I did it because I love you." The room became darker. Sophie slowly changed into a shadow. Then a voice echoed. "You failed her. You always fail the people you love." Nathan closed his eyes. He wanted to believe the illusion. But then he remembered the real Sophie. Her smile. Her courage. Her trust in him. He opened his eyes and shouted, "You are not my daughter. My daughter is fighting at home. And I will return to her." The hospital room shattered like glass. Nathan was back inside the cabin, breathing heavily. At the same time, Lucas was facing his own test. He was standing in a dark street, the same street where his younger brother disappeared many years ago. Lucas had spent years blaming himself, because he believed he could have saved him. A young boy voice came from the darkness. "Lucas, why did you leave me?" Lucas started crying. "I tried to find you. I searched everywhere." The boy stepped closer. "But you gave up. You forgot me." Lucas wanted to answer, but he remembered something. His brother always told him, "Never blame yourself for things you cannot control." Lucas looked at the shadow. "You are not my brother. My brother would never want me to suffer." The street disappeared, and Lucas returned to the cabin, but Caleb was still missing. Nathan and Lucas looked around worriedly. "Where is Caleb?" Suddenly they heard a voice from outside. It was Caleb screaming, "Help me." They ran toward the door, but stopped when they remembered the warning. Not every voice is real. Nathan looked at Lucas. What if it is really him? Lucas looked toward the darkness. "We have to know." Slowly they opened the cabin door. Outside was not the forest. It was a wide empty field covered in white fog. And in the middle of that field, Caleb was standing in front of a grave with his own name written on it. Nathan whispered, "What is this place?" Caleb looked back at them. His face was full of fear, because beside his grave stood the ghost of Henry Whitmore, and Henry was holding something in his hand, a small old box. He looked at Caleb and said, "The final truth is inside this box, but if you open it, you will learn why I never found peace." Caleb stood in the middle of the foggy field. His eyes were fixed on the old wooden box in Henry Whitmore's hand. The grave beside him carried his own name. Everything around him felt impossible, but somehow it felt real. Nathan and Lucas slowly walked toward him. "Caleb, are you okay?" Caleb did not answer immediately. He was staring at Henry. The ghost of his grandfather looked exactly as he did years ago. Calm, kind, but filled with sadness. Henry looked at all three of them. "You have reached the final test. But before you leave this valley, you need to know the truth." Caleb looked confused. "Grandfather, what truth? Why are you trapped here?" Henry looked down at the old box. "Many years ago, I came to this forest searching for answers. People in Ravenwood Hollow believed this valley was cursed. They thought the spirits here were evil. But the truth was different. These spirits were once ordinary people. They were victims of greed and betrayal. Many years ago, a group of people found hidden treasure inside this forest. Instead of sharing it with the town, they fought among themselves. Many lives were lost that night, and the pain of those people created a darkness that remained here forever." Nathan listened carefully. "Then why are people disappearing?" Henry looked at him. "Because the valley tests human hearts. It does not want innocent lives. It only traps those who choose selfishness over kindness." Caleb looked at the box. "What is inside it?" Henry handed the box toward him. "This contains the last secret of our family. The reason I could not leave this place." Caleb slowly opened the box. Inside was an old letter, a family document, and a small golden key. He opened the letter. The handwriting belonged to Henry. "Caleb, if you are reading this, it means you reached the place where I failed. Years ago I discovered the hidden treasure of this valley. But instead of using it for myself, I wanted to use it to help the people of Ravenwood Hollow. However, a dark spirit tested me. It showed me endless wealth. For a moment, I became tempted. I wanted to keep everything, and that mistake trapped my soul here." Caleb looked shocked. "Grandfather, you were trapped because of greed." Henry nodded. "Yes, Even a good person can lose their way when temptation becomes too strong. But you proved something different. You came here not for money, not for power. You came here to save a child you barely knew. That is why the valley accepted you. Suddenly the ground started shaking. The fog around them became darker. A huge shadow appeared behind Henry. The same dark spirit they had seen earlier. Its voice echoed across the field. You cannot take what belongs to this place. Caleb stepped back. The spirit moved closer. You came here seeking help. Now leave something behind. Nathan looked terrified. What does it want? Henry looked at Caleb. It wants your choice. The spirit showed Caleb a vision. In one direction was a path leading outside the forest, safe and easy. In the other direction was a path filled with darkness. At the end of that path was a light that could save Sophie. The spirit spoke. Choose. Save yourself, or save the girl. Caleb understood. This was the final test. The spirit wanted him to choose his own safety. Nathan looked at Caleb. Do not risk your life for us. You have already done enough. But Caleb looked at Sophie's vision. Then he looked at Nathan. A child's life is worth fighting for. I made my decision. He stepped toward the dark path. The moment he moved, the entire valley started shaking violently. The spirits around them began screaming. The dark figure became angry. You choose another life over your own. Caleb replied. That is exactly why I will win. Suddenly the golden key in Caleb's hand started glowing. The key moved by itself toward an old stone door hidden behind the trees. Henry looked surprised. The door has opened. After all these years, the spirits surrounding them started disappearing. But the dark shadow became stronger. It rushed toward Caleb. Nathan and Lucas shouted, Caleb, move. But Caleb stood there holding the key, because he finally understood. The valley was never searching for someone powerful. It was searching for someone who could choose kindness even when afraid. The stone door slowly opened, and behind it was a room filled with old treasure. But in the center of the room was something unexpected. A small medical box, with a symbol from a famous Australian hospital. Caleb picked it up, and suddenly Henry smiled. This is what you came here for. The cure for Sophie. But before anyone could react, the dark spirit screamed loudly, because it knew its final chance was disappearing. The entire Black Mist Valley started shaking violently. The trees moved, as if a powerful storm was passing through them, but there was no wind. The dark spirit floating above the ground became larger and more terrifying. Its black smoke covered the entire field. Caleb held the medical box tightly in his hands. He finally understood the truth. The valley was never hiding treasure for greed. It was protecting something that could help someone innocent. The dark spirit moved closer. You think you have one, but nobody leaves this place easily. Nathan stepped forward. You cannot stop us anymore. We came here for my daughter, not for money, not for anything else. The spirit laughed loudly. Every human says the same thing, but when they see what they want, they change. Suddenly hundreds of old coins appeared around them. Gold, jewels, ancient treasures. The spirit whispered, take it. You can become rich. You can forget your problems. Nathan looked at the treasure. For a second he thought about his struggles, the hospital bills, the debts, the pain he had gone through. But then he remembered Sophie's face. He pushed the treasure away. I do not need this. I only need my daughter to live. The treasure disappeared instantly. The spirit became weaker. Lucas looked at Caleb. It is losing power. Caleb nodded. Because it cannot control people who have no greed. The spirit became furious. The ground cracked open. Dark shadows came out from below. The lost souls of the valley appeared around them. Some were crying. Some were screaming. Some were reaching toward Caleb. But Henry stepped forward. Enough. This has continued for too many years. The spirit stopped. Henry looked at them sadly. You all suffered because of human mistakes. But keeping innocent people trapped will never bring peace. The dark spirit turned toward Henry. You were also trapped here. You cannot stop me. Henry smiled. I was trapped because I failed my test. But these people passed theirs. Suddenly Henry started glowing with a soft light. Caleb looked at him with tears in his eyes. Grandfather. Henry looked at Caleb. Thank you. You did what I could not do. You proved that kindness is stronger than fear. A bright light spread across the valley. The dark spirit screamed. The trees started breaking apart. The fog disappeared. And one by one, the trapped spirits began fading away. Their faces were no longer angry. They looked peaceful. Before disappearing, many of them looked at Caleb and thanked him silently. The dark spirit became smaller and smaller, until finally it vanished completely. The forest became quiet. But this time, the silence was peaceful. Henry looked at Caleb one last time. Remember one thing, never measure your life by what you own. Measure it by how many lives you can help. Caleb wiped his tears. I will never forget you. Henry smiled. Now I can finally rest." His body slowly turned into light and disappeared into the morning sky. At that moment, the first rays of sunlight entered Black Mist Valley. For the first time in many years, the forest looked normal again. Nathan looked at the medical box in Caleb's hands. "Do you really think this can save Sophie?" Caleb opened it carefully. Inside was a special medicine and documents explaining the treatment. Everything Sophie needed. Lucas smiled with relief. "Your grandfather was waiting for the right person all these years." Caleb looked back at the valley. Maybe he was waiting for someone who believed helping others mattered more than anything else. The three men finally found their way out of the forest. When they reached Ravenwood Hollow, the storm had stopped. People were surprised to see them return. Everyone thought they were lost forever. Nathan immediately took Sophie to the hospital. After several days of treatment, the doctors saw a huge improvement in her condition. The medicine worked. Sophie was getting better. Nathan could not stop crying when he saw his daughter smile again. He knew that someone had protected them that night, someone who was no longer alive, but whose kindness saved their lives. Months later, the people of Ravenwood Hollow built a small memorial near the Old Forest Road. It was dedicated to Henry Whitmore, the man who spent years waiting for someone with a pure heart. Caleb never sold his family property. Instead, he turned it into a community center where people could get help during difficult times. And the Black Mist Valley, the place everyone feared for generations, was never the same again. Some people still say that during quiet nights, a man carrying an old lantern can be seen walking near the forest. But those who see him say one thing: he does not look angry. He looks peaceful. Because after many years, Henry Whitmore finally found his way home. Years passed after the night inside Black Mist Valley. Ravenwood Hollow slowly changed. The people who once feared the forest started seeing it differently. The old stories about disappearances and dark shadows became memories of the past. But the people never forgot what happened to Nathan, Caleb, and Lucas. Everyone in the town knew that their courage had saved not only Sophie but also released many lost souls who were trapped for years. Sophie grew up healthy and strong. She always listened carefully whenever her father told her about that mysterious night. But Nathan never told her everything. He only said, "Sometimes strangers become family, and sometimes people who are gone still protect us." Sophie always asked about the old man with the lantern. Nathan would smile and say, "His name was Henry. He was someone who showed us that a good heart is the greatest power in this world." Meanwhile, Caleb continued helping the people of Ravenwood Hollow. The community center he created became a place where anyone could come for support. Poor families, children, and people facing difficult times. Everyone respected Caleb because they knew he was not just a leader. He was someone who cared about others. One evening, many years after the events of Black Mist Valley, Caleb walked near the Old Forest Road, the same place where he first saw his grandfather after his death. The sky was dark. The wind was moving slowly through the trees. Caleb stopped near the edge of the forest. He looked toward the old path. For a moment he thought he saw a small light moving between the trees. An old lantern. Caleb smiled. He knew exactly who it was. "Grandfather, thank you." A soft wind passed through the forest, and a peaceful voice whispered, "Keep helping people, Caleb. That is the only treasure that truly matters." Caleb closed his eyes. A small tear rolled down his face, because he knew Henry was finally free. After that night, nobody in Ravenwood Hollow ever feared Black Mist Valley again. People still shared stories about the strange forest, but the story was no longer about fear. It was about kindness, sacrifice, and a man who proved that even in the darkest places, a pure heart can create light. And even though Henry Whitmore was no longer alive, his kindness continued living through every person he helped, because sometimes, the greatest miracles do not come from magic. They come from people who choose to do the right thing when nobody is watching.